All right. Let's see. Waiting and watching for us to be live here. Looks like we are going live now with the. Okay. I think we're live, Jarvis. All right. Good evening. Meteorologist Brett Adair here in the office after a grueling 30 days of really from the last week of April into May. We ended up tracking lots and lots of tornadoes, several destructive and deadly tornadoes, even from Iowa down through Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, heck, all the way down into the lower Tennessee Valley area. It has been basically a gauntlet for a multitude of reasons. For me, it has been one of the most it's been one of the most impressive months. It's been the best month of my chasing career on a professional and a personal level in ways. Bittersweet in some ways too. So I got Jarvis here, producer Jarvis in the background with us this evening as well. He was able to partake in some of the activities over the course of the last couple of weeks too. We had a group of individuals that were out there during those times. And Jarvis, what do you make of some of this stuff that we witnessed? We're going to show quite a bit of footage from some of the things that we witnessed and some of the other stuff that we dealt with during the trip.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience and a great time to get back out in the field. I think we made several great calls, got plenty of video, got the message out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we had a great time out there. I tell you what I'm going to do before we jump into that. Brandon, you need to either bump your mic or talk louder is what we're being told. But before we go to that, Brandon, I'm gonna actually throw my screen on here so we can show everybody what's going on weather-wise right now. As of 9:27 p.m. this evening, you can see we've got a couple of severe thunderstorm watches in play across portions of eastern and southeastern Colorado, western Oklahoma Panhandle, and the western Texas Panhandle as well this evening. And we're seeing several severe thunderstorm warnings that are currently active and off the cuff. Jarvis, do you can you pull me in here onto the feed? Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I thought it would pull me in off the rip, so I'm going to do it this way. There we go. We got a couple mesoscale discussions out. I'm going to kill that. Severe thunderstorm watches up here in southeast Colorado, generally along and south of I-70, and then you've got the severe thunderstorm watch there: Amarillo, Tucumcari, Lubbock, western Panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Those are actually active right now with severe thunderstorms until 11 o'clock. We're dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings, some bigger tags here on these warnings across portions of the Panhandle. 70-mile-an-hour winds indicated there coming into the south side of Amarillo, Canyon, Texas, Happy, Texas. That's going to be the I-29 corridor there, I do believe, that runs from Amarillo down to Plainview and Lubbock. And several storms showing large hail signatures there near Tatum. And those storms continue to push off to the east. It's been a situation when we've had this going on for several days now. Loop the radar here. We've seen several of these systems develop, grow upscale, and become MCS type features. So you can see one of these older MCSs that moved all the way across Louisiana earlier is now across the Mississippi River Delta, up in the Little Rock area with some warnings in place there for flash flooding. Basically, it looks like water is flowing over Keel Avenue in Sherwood there in Pulaski County, Arkansas. So again, another one of these MCSs starting to make its way across the Panhandle. Wind gusts over 60 miles an hour have been very common with those. And we've seen hail to the size of golf balls and larger at some times, especially up here with these storms in Colorado, southeast of Denver. They're pushing generally south of I-70 now. The northern edge of that watch is likely pretty clear. Everything down to the south and east, Lamar, Trinidad, again, La Junta, Cheyenne Wells, you're about to get hammered as these big storms continue to push toward the east and the south. So that is what we have going on this evening. I'll give you a little bit of a larger scale picture here. You can see the shower and thunderstorm activity there across the south as well, with that old MCS that moved across Louisiana a little while ago, starting to spark some new storms in South Alabama. Those are pulling generally toward the north right now as the main complex is moving toward the east-northeast. This is going to impact portions of Birmingham. We've got a rainy weekend in store around here, given what we're seeing now with this wave moving through, and expecting more rainfall as well. But that's kind of the story this evening. There's still a slight risk of severe weather out across Texas and the Colorado and the Front Range there in the Panhandle, mainly for hail and wind. Don't think we have much of a shot of tornadoes tonight. That's kind of the story for the next couple of days. So we're going to see it shift toward the northern plains up here, though. By Monday, a bit of a wave comes out. The Dakotas, western Minnesota, maybe northeast Nebraska, northern Iowa will deal with some severe weather activity around that time. That's kind of what we've got for you right now in regards to weather across the U.S. now. So, Jarvis, I think what we want to do is let's kind of start with how things went. Should we start with our April 26th Iowa adventure up near Minden and Harlan, where the EF4 gave us fits? I'm assuming you probably have that video in the reel too, right?
Yeah, I got that all here ready to go. So you just call for it and I'll rip it. All
right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug that in and show that to you guys this evening. So we'll go ahead, Jarvis. Let's do that. Let's get toward the Minden situation, and I'll give a little bit of play-by-play on that, and we'll go from there. There we go. So this is Minden, Iowa. Is my audio over this, Jarvis?
Yeah, your audio's over it. But do you want to?
So this is Minden, Iowa. We were sitting in this field here, just outside of Minden. The town is really right there toward the right. You see the tree line on the right side of your screen, and we watched this big monster tornado get its act together as it was southwest of town. We watched 3 or 4 separate tornadoes touch down and occlude before this big monster really developed, moved into town, destroyed many homes there in the Minden area. And unfortunately, we had one fatality come out of that area. Honestly, there's one of the homes you can see at the bottom of the tornado that gets sucked around it right there. And that is about the time where that home's being hit, unfortunately. Crazy looking tornado. I think this is some of the iPhone footage, but you can see all the debris there inside that tornado being pushed out toward the front. as it moves toward the northeast there into town. Incredible event. That was that was not a satellite tornado at all. That is a main vortex tornado. That's the main vortex there. As it moves through Minden, obscures the water tower in the background. It did not hit it, but it did hit a ton of homes. You can see the water tower there on the left starting to show up again. But we were positioned in this place watching the supercell, I don't know, 25 minutes or so before it did all this. You can see the multiple strong vortices there as it crosses the roadway. Continues moving outside of Minden at this point. And this is where we begin to look at the road network and see how we're going to reposition. But you can see the crazy multiple suction vortices within this tornado. This was on April 26, 2024. Very scary tornado. Perfectly placed and positioned tornado that we were able to capture. As it moved, initially it was moving at a pretty decent clip. It wasn't all that quick. It allowed us to stay with it, but the tornado did pick up speed as it moved toward the north and east in a really, really fast manner. This is as it's approaching Harlan. You can see there's damage there in the power lines. I think this is going to be Jarvis's iPhone footage, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a little blurry there and probably a little shaky because he was out a window trying to capture this.
Hanging out the window like I always do.
Oh, yeah. And then we were at that point, we were shooting a beam back to Fox Weather and the Weather Channel and several other entities. But that tornado is very, very close to us because Jarvis is shooting wide right there. Get close, shoot wide. That's a whole new meaning to it. That was a tremendous tornado as it was moving toward the northeast. Unfortunately, we witnessed that thing hit several farmsteads over the course of its life. Right here, we come around the curve, and we approach a water tower here, I think, as we're going into Harlan. And I got a pretty good shot of this tornado as it's moving up toward the north and east, too. There it is. There's Adam Lucio there in the expedition. This thing's very, very mean at that point, Jarvis.
Props to him for knowing how to drive.
Well, that could be said about a whole bunch of folks during this time period. We dealt with a lot of people who had no idea, either had no idea how close they might be to the tornado, or they just weren't driving very well when it came to this particular storm. But yeah, this was very intense. This tornado was rated EF4. Let me go ahead and throw this out. This is one of the more impressive parts of this tornado right here. I think this is actually off the dash cam where you can see just boatloads of debris with this tornado. Just very, very impressive storm. Unfortunately, tearing apart some farmsteads here at times too. But that's just a mean tornado right there. You see those very large pieces of debris. Those are roofs, other pieces of farmsteads. And then you can see the crazy suction vortices around a tornado. Had you ever seen anything like that, Jarvis, at that kind of a range before?
No, that's a day for the books right there. That's a career-changing day is what some people have said.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That the suction vortices right here were just absolutely ruthless too. You see that big barrel come across the road, and then
Check.
You'll watch this pipe develop on the right side and come back across the road. Just insane vortices there. I mean, this particular piece of video is one of the best pieces I think I've ever shot. But crazy day there. Look at the left side of that tornado. I mean, that thing was just mowing. And luckily it was over, even though it hit numerous farmsteads. I mean, look at all that debris. Even though it hit numerous farmsteads, it still missed a lot of stuff. I mean, it had a lot of fields. You put a tornado like that in the deep south, and man, we're talking like a mass casualty flipping event down here. We approach some houses here as we come up the hill. If it shows all that, we do approach some houses that were hit. We had emergency services that were following right behind us, that were stopping when they were coming up on these homes that had been hit. There's a bad one with the roof off, that had been hit pretty hard, and some EMS personnel stopped behind us. Thank goodness. But yeah, man, this is when it got north of Harlan, I do believe, when it full on went wedge beast mode. As we're coming up this hill here, I think we're approaching the interstate too, going north of the interstate right here too. I mean, that was just pure insanity right there with that motion.
Yeah, that whole day was just insane.
Well, and this was the first one. I was thinking, after watching what had occurred in front of us this day, I was thinking, no matter what happens the rest of the season, that was the tornado. As you see here, on the left there's a house with half its roof off. This is where we come up the hill, and all these people just block the road. I mean, everybody just blocks the road, and we're like, guys, get out of the way. Get on a shoulder. Get up. I mean, yeah, there's some debris in the road. So what? Like, move or get out of our way so we can move. I mean, the tornado continues to go. You can see all the debris. I mean, this thing wasn't going to stop. It didn't look like, and we were concerned that it was going to, hit other homes. So we're trying to continue and get ahead of the tornado. But everybody was like stopping. The only one, as you can see right there in the black expedition, that's Adam Lucio. He continues to move. And then this is a little further up the road as we catch back up to the tornado. I mean, it is just very wide at this point, probably a mile wide. Damage to the farmstead right there to the right. I think there was a propane tank we could hear venting off. But that's a scary scene if that's anywhere near you, because the whole left to right area of the screen right there, even though the whole thing's not on the ground, that's tornadic winds that are on the ground capable of doing a lot of damage right there. So that's absolutely just a scary sight. Here we go. You can see some of the more damage. We come up on the big grain bin there on the left. You can see it took something pretty hard to hit that and crunch that in right there. And then off to the right, we've got some pretty serious damage of those little silos and some of the buildings out there to the right. But that right there on the left, that's very impressive, the way it crushed that grain bin in. On more grain bins to the right there damaged. The houses that were around these trees, though, very, very minimal damage. There was some, but very minimal compared to what I would have expected in that scenario. So really crazy day there.
Super crazy day.
I don't know.
I do have some drone video here for you.
Is this
Minden?
You got the Minden drone?
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about that. We chased this tornado for a long period of time, and then I wanted to go back before dusk and get to Minden and take a look at the storm damage because it was tremendous. And as you can see here, that's what we walked back to. Homes were destroyed. The better part of that house was taken out. You got some outer walls down, but look at this. I know there was a gas building, and honestly, one of those basements down there is where we had someone that lost their life. They had to pull them out of the basement. That one home right there, you can see straight down into the basement. I believe we had maybe a church on the left side of the highway here too at some point, Jarvis. But I had no idea that we had a fatality in this area. When we talked to the fire department when we arrived, they initially thought that we did not have any fatalities in the area. They had somebody taken away with an injury, but we thought we had made it through. You know, looking at this type of damage, that leads you to believe that people are going to be hurt and hurt bad. And we thought we had escaped one. But right there on the east side of town, you can see that's where the most of the damage is. You got some destroyed homes, and then that destroyed gas facility, I guess it was, or utility facility, and then maybe that was a church there as well. But again, the drone comes in really handy when we're immediately trying to look at aftermath in these situations and get a scope of just how bad this is. You can see all the cinder blocks there that are pushed over and the bricks. Cinder blocks really don't stand a chance when it comes to tornadoes. So that's the reason you want to be in a really well-built structure. And look at this home. Interior room, you would have done pretty good there for the most part. You had some outer walls blown out on the east side, but it still did pretty good there. But very, very somber going back and seeing what we saw there with the damage after watching the tornado roll through the area. So unfortunate, and that's been an unfortunate thing that we've witnessed a lot over the course of the last couple of weeks. Just major damage across many small towns. But here's the debris field off to the north and east. Look at those trees down there along the creek. Those things are mowed up, large power lines down and thrown. And those trees are debarked and eaten up pretty good. And this is, that's what an EF4 looks like, folks. These are mostly EF3 damage points, but that's what a very strong tornado will do if you're in the path. So every time we're talking to you and telling you to get yourself to the lowest floor interior room of your home, this is the reason, 100%. So this is the reason.
Yeah, I tell you, it's always difficult after watching tornado and, getting that shot going back and going into the aftermath. It immediately just kills that, adrenaline rush or whatever, and you just go into search and rescue mode, and it just kind of brings you back down to earth.
Well, it does, and there was quite a bit of response here, so that was great. They had already closed town off, so we were kind of on the outskirts of town at the time that this occurred. But and then we were then the crazy thing, we were given this just insane sunset. These storms moved off really fast, cleared out, and we were just given an insane sunset with destruction everywhere. And that's the hard part too. People don't realize it's not like that this lasts all day. This literally lasted 30 seconds for these people, and then that's what they go back to. Just catastrophic, and unfortunately, it's very bothersome when we deal with stuff like this. day in and day out. And unfortunately, this was the beginning of one of the most active stretches I think of my life. This was April 26th. So we'll start there. And Jarvis, I think after this, we went back to Kansas City. After we covered this damage, we went back to Kansas City.
Yep.
Not really knowing if we were going to cover Kansas the following day or drop into Oklahoma, which was the better or the more likely aspect. And we ended up going to bed and getting up and going all the way down into Oklahoma the next day.
It's all a blur to me at this point, but I think that's about correct there.
I'm sure that I could probably go in and look.
You got some Holdenville, Oklahoma damage from 428.
Yeah, so Oklahoma was really interesting. Believe that was the day that we went moderate risk, right? The next day, the Holdenville day.
I believe so.
So the Holdenville day was the day that we went moderate risk for western Oklahoma. During that period of time, we thought that the tornadoes may occur a little earlier. Well, kind of a dud during the day. We had one little tornado, I think, out west. Well, 7 o'clock hit. I-35 lit up. You had destructive tornadoes that started literally 7, 8, 9 o'clock. Norman was hit by one small one that was embedded in a line. And then Thackerville, Marietta, Sulphur, Holdenville, almost got Shawnee. And unfortunately, this is the next day. This is Sunday. Went basically off-road riding in Holdenville. Had a very good time that day. That was, unfortunately, it was fun until I got to this. This is where a young child was the victim of the tornado. You can see that was a mobile home platform. And over across the street here in this field, there's your mobile home debris field. Way up here, you can see a piece of the pieces of the home there. And as I continue out some 400 or 500 yards away from where the home once was, you can see the actual trailer tongue up here on the hill. Looks like it was dragged through the ground. You see that, Jarvis? It's looks like multiple vehicles actually were up there, but that's what's left of the tongue of that trailer, and that's the reason you're not going to survive a good sized tornado, even a weak tornado. But you're not going to survive a tornado in that type of a situation. And you can see right there was where the home was, and here's the fly-in. Looking at the trailer tongue, all the debris on the ground, and unfortunately, again, a very young child was lost in this situation. And I don't know currently where the parents are. I do know that they were in the hospital at the time of this video, so there were some serious injuries there as well. But this is, the unfortunate destruction that we get to see all too often. This is also why we encourage everybody that's in a mobile home to either have a storm shelter that that you can go to, or, have a storm shelter where you live. So this was the 27th. There were the tornadoes. This is the next day, the 28th, when I moved across Oklahoma in search of some of the damage paths. And this is the main one that I went to. Everybody else kind of honed in on Marietta and Sulphur, and they were getting a lot of attention. Well, I wanted to make sure that this area had some attention. This was very hard to find, too. I found a lot of damage elsewhere, but this particular scene was not that easy to find, and I was out there 2 to 3 hours. We were riding the roads, and ended up in a field, ended up in a cow pasture at one point. So you can see, though, none of the vehicles there, not even a scratch on them. That was their vehicles, not even a scratch. You can these are oil canisters, oil containers too. These big oil containers were rolled, and there's one that's busted here. You can see all the oil on the ground. This was a little bit of a different location. This was to the south of where the fatalities took place. I think it was on the southwest side of Holdenville. But look at this big oil container that was rolled, oil spilling out, hit the power pole, snapped it. Several power lines were down up the road that drove through, but you can see that that container's busted there on the top, and then there's another one that's rolled, and then here's another building that was just completely destroyed that was able to find out there southwest of Holdenville as well. There were some looked like some chicken houses that were out there that were just completely wiped too. So crazy situation. So the 28th featured a lot of damage from the tornadoes the night of the 27th. And this was outside of some of the main risk area. The main risk area had to be shifted to the east some because overnight that's essentially what happened. But you can see a lot of trees shredded, some roofing taken off, an outbuilding completely removed and destroyed there too. But again, just amazing views from the drone there, the aerial aftermath of the tornado. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you staying with the channel for the coverage, and unfortunately we hate having to do things like this, but this was just too big of a May not to talk about. In late April too. All right, Jarvis, what you think's next on the agenda? Heck, I'm trying to remember all the days, just to be quite honest with you.
Oh, me too, as we're sitting here going through it. Next thing I've got in the can is the Covington, Oklahoma tornado on May 6th.
May the 6th, Covington, Oklahoma. Matter of fact, I'm so out of sync here. I'm going back to my own video manager to look and see what exactly I have here. Oh yeah. Okay. That was the high risk day. That was the high risk day in Covington.
Oh yeah, with all the chase convergence that day following Reed around.
It was. So hung out in northern Oklahoma. That I remember that because there were so many awesome. There was a pretty awesome tornado that day, or supercell that day, and you know what? It may be in this video too. I think I put it all in that video. I think I did. Because that was the day that Reed was northwest. I think we west of Enid up there. Pretty sure we were west of Enid. So this is the tornado that I was on in my truck. I think I was actually in the truck by myself at this point. There's a media chaser. I turn around and I'm like, uh-oh, the tornado's behind us. This dude's not even seeing it. The rotation's behind us, and then I think it's touching down right here. Yeah, it is. There's a emergency manager truck right there, and I'm like, uh-oh, here we go, and get a tornado that literally spins up in front of me, almost hits that truck, and then comes across the road and pipes up pretty good. This is the storm that everybody thought was going to be El Reno because it was going absolutely insane. But it piped up pretty good right there. Had some debris at the surface, and you can see somewhere the cone above. But this thing was so massive. It had a huge collar and a huge wall cloud. Luckily, this thing kind of died out really, really fast. It spun up and it got choked off. And there was a carousel mezzo. I couldn't see jack. So after that, you kind of see it looks like it dissipates there as it's heading up toward the town of Covington. Well, I turned to the right and I exit through the RFD. So I got out of Dodge. But this is cell number 1 from that afternoon, too. I think this was west of Enid. We literally followed this thing all the way from Woodward, all the way across, and thought it was going to drop. Spun up so good, wouldn't drop. You can see the funnel cloud there underneath what that spaceship-looking mezzo to the left. I actually sat out there. Here we go. This is a gorgeous shot of it as it spins. And I really thought this was about to produce a wicked tornado right here with 80,000 chasers coming down the road. You can see there it goes, and it looks like it's about to do its thing and produce big tornado. And at that time, Frankie Shepard pulled up. He was sitting beside me. And he had Josh Pate with him. I don't know if you guys know Josh Pate. Josh Pate, I think he is on CBS Sports Network. He has a show there. And Josh was with him. He's an avid storm enthusiast. They pulled up beside me, and we were talking. Got to meet Josh Pate. That was pretty cool. And continued north up this highway, watching this little cone funnel as it continued to try to be like the little engine that could, but it wouldn't do anything more than that. And, really and truly, the Covington situation happened right after that. So those two things were pretty epic. And then, we saw this too. Great aerial shots. This is as we've got some of the stuff going outflow dominant. That day didn't end up being as big as I thought it might be. Thankfully, we had a few more tornado warning storms that evening, but the Barnesdall, Oklahoma tornado happened way out front over toward Tulsa. That was an EF4, and I know there were some fatalities with that. So, unfortunately, that occurred. I was not on that. We were west of there, which was fine. Again, you can't win them all in terms of the main tornado, but we did for the most part across this entire time period. But this was a rewarding day with the very moist profiles that we had in place, and also the extreme chaser convergence. Seeing any tornado when you've got that kind of chaser convergence is just a win. So I was happy with the way that played out. And then, again, we were off to the races. Not really a verifying high-risk day in the high risk. Barnesdall was absolutely catastrophic, but not really what I expected from the high-risk day. There were some factors there that kind of messed that up a little bit. But, again, a tornado day nonetheless. Every day in May had basically been a tornado day. So that was May the 6th. And beyond that, I ended up having to do some camera work. So I had to take myself back to home here in Birmingham. Heath and I ended up going to Louisiana. We were going to be doing some camera work, putting up some tower cameras and some mobile weather units, some sky cameras as well. And unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of that done because of tornadoes. We were in Lafayette for a week, and then we were all around the area because tornadoes just couldn't seem to stop. So we had a big echo come through that had 80, 90 mile per hour winds, and Sulphur, Louisiana, outside of Lake Charles, was actually hit by a tornado. Jarvis, I don't know if you see it, but it looks like that video is stalled a little bit there.
Yeah, I just paused it for a second.
There we go. You can see in the evening there, we had reports that a tornado had hit the Walmart near Sulphur. Well, right out in front of the Walmart's this Murphy gas station. We pull up on that. You can see it's torn to pieces. There's going to be several shots of that here. It was very late. We were able to get back over there. This thing was hauling. I mean, it was a MCS spin-up tornado. That thing was running at 70, 80 miles an hour. We were on the interstate there on I-10, and we could not keep up with it as hard as we tried. So we got in it, got hit by it between Lake Charles and Lafayette. So then we ended up going back and getting the damage before the sun set. So that was a more unexpected situation, but we were definitely in position for tornadoes then. And there were several tornadoes. You can see the Walmart sign there bent and wrapped around the pole. That's definitely not supposed to be like that. There's going to be a neighborhood over here. There were cars that were flipped right across the street. And some of those cars, I think the two of those had already been like removed before we got there. But a lot of power poles snapped and lines down, and we actually saw several homes that had partial roof removal back in this neighborhood as well. I had to do some crafty drone work back there. Big trees down. This was initially rated an EF3, and then they had to go back really quickly and do an amendment to the survey. It was 2 commercial buildings, but they were not particularly well built. But you can see this purling right here is by the highway, right by the highway, and that came from the Murphy. And then you can see all of the damage over there that was thrown into the Verizon Wireless parking lot. So again, another day, another tornado. Well, another several tornadoes. There were a lot of tornadoes embedded within that line. But you had to differentiate the wind damage from the tornado damage because there were just tons. Excuse me. Sorry about that. There was just tons of damage across the board. You see the camper there flipped. Have you ever been hit by a tornado while chasing? I've been hit by about 4 tornadoes. I was hit by a borderline EF4 tornado in Hattiesburg, not Hattiesburg, yeah. The east side on 49. It spun me around into a ditch with my old chase partner a couple years ago. It was the early morning. It was around 4 a.m. Very strong tornado. Big tornado, too. It flipped over a Toyota Tundra in front of me, and it landed on its roof in the road. So, yes, I've been down that road for sure. But here you can see the front side of that bow as it was coming at us. We had some wind there. I think we were pretty close to Jennings with this. But this wasn't anything crazy impactful. So let's see what else. I think we had more that week. I don't know. We had a lot of damage in Lake Charles as well. They had a tornado take care of them during that time period. I think the next day there were 2 areas though. We shot some drone footage. I don't know if you pulled it, Jarvis, but Cecilia and Henderson, Louisiana. I think Henderson was probably the really good drone footage that I shot the next day from the damage. We had a rather strong tornado touch down just on the west side of the Atchafalaya River Basin. That's going to be Cecilia. We had a couple of homes that had roof removal. Everybody was there trying to work out, getting their items out, cleaning up trees, utility crews on the scene. Lots of damage. So that was something that was that was going on quite a bit. If you want to move over to the Henderson video.
Oh, this says it's Henderson video.
Talk about
Pat's restaurant.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
If you want to speed through it just a little bit, this may be Henderson. Sorry, it is. I remember. Keep going. We'll go a little further, guys. I want to show you out by the river, more or less. Keep on moving because I know what this is. Okay, here we go. So this is the Pat's restaurant. This is one of the pretty impressive pieces of video here. We're out by the Atchafalaya. It completely removed. I believe there's probably going to be metal roof there on the top of the building. You could see somebody that was in there looking at everything when we were there. But this place is one of it's like a fish camp, I believe. Look at that BMW just beat to pieces by the tornado debris that hit it. I mean, I would have hated to be sitting in that BMW with all of that. I don't think the Henderson tornado was fatal. But you can see this is a cool little area. I was able to fly the drone really, really low here and just show how all the debris ended up compiling in the area here. A little water tower there in town too. I think it had some damage where it had been hit by debris. Crazy though. Crazy to see some of these scenes. You can see the boats. There's an area out there where the boats pull up. Old water tower there. And then across right there, across that little levee, that's where the Atchafalaya is at. So there's some natural levees out there. Let's see. So this is one of the more, I don't want to say famous places, but this is one of the areas that was more well known. We're going to fly right here across and show you some campers that are also flipped over here right across. You can see the tornado came up, went into the basin here. I couldn't see the path in terms of tree debris very far. I think it ended pretty quick. But you can see those campers right there, boy. I would have hated to have been in that ride. That one's flipped completely upside down. The other one on its side. A lot of the power lines down. That wasn't fun. You see all the debris there across the river basin too. Not a fun time dealing with those projectiles, and then those little houseboats there. They're not really in livable shape anymore. So unfortunate to see that, but again, compared to some of the other things, this type of damage is rather light based on what we've seen through the month of May. But this was a situation around May the 13th, May the 14th. And then May the 16th, 17th, 18th, more severe storms popped off there and more damage. So coastal Louisiana has been smoked as well. I mean, they got hit last night by another nasty MCS, and they had a widespread swath of 70 to 80 mile an hour winds. They had some people killed on Toledo Bend, which is a popular area there in far western Louisiana on the Texas border, where they've had we've had a cool lightning show there too, several nights. But Toledo Bend is another area that they had 2 people killed. There were 6 in a boat. The boat capsized, and I think it was going to be, if you guys remember the duck boat situation in Missouri a couple years ago, where you had outflow winds hit before severe thunderstorm came in and flipped the boat over and killed a bunch of people. I think 7, 8 maybe were dead. Kind of the same thing. I believe it was fishermen out on a boat, 6 of them, or on a pontoon. I'm unsure exactly, but several of them that ended up not making it. So we're working on putting a camera up there in the Toledo Bend area also. And yes, slam that like button. We're going to be live on here a lot more. Producer Jarvis is back in the studio now. Hurricane season is coming. I'm working on vehicle repairs, which we'll show you. We'll show you some cool little outtakes from that situation here in just a little bit too. But yeah, there's a lot more in the way of weather coming. But anyway, Louisiana battered, and then we made our triumphant return to the plains, Jarvis. I think that was going to be
Newton, Kansas.
We started moving toward the plains on the 18th. We ended up spending the night in Dallas. You came back in on the 18th, and then
had to take that family vacation time.
Yeah, I just took a little family vacation and took a little tornado detour here and there. But we got there and then departed north to Kansas on the 19th. That was when the real fun and games kind of began. Based on everything we saw, there was a big destructive wind and hail threat, and it was grilling weather. I mean, what could you say? You go to Newton, Kansas for grilling weather, and we all had a laugh there with this big, huge complex that was Boeing and coming in, and we knew we were gonna get some real big winds here and watch pieces of the sign fly off there. It was pretty cool. As we were watching the severe thunderstorms come in and also watching some of those kinks in the line develop. So we watched those occur as we moved back toward the city of Newton. And we actually had a pretty good tornado touchdown just to the north of the road here where we were at. We were having to watch ourselves pretty closely. And then we got into Newton close to 135. And then we saw just several power flashes, lots of power flashes. Knew the wind was going to be a big deal there. Saw the power go out here in a second, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there it goes. And then come on and go off. And we knew we were going to have some damage somewhere, most likely, because these winds were kicking it. It was like being in a minimal hurricane. The video really doesn't do it justice, I don't think.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Well, we went back and went through town after this and saw, all kinds of damage, mainly trees. A lot of trees were uprooted. We saw the roof of a church there. It had a partial roof removal on the backside. And the debris was strewn into the roadway there. But lot of trees, just tons of trees across this area, healthy trees at that, that were either uprooted. I mean, I just didn't see a ton of snappage, Jarvis, that, when you're looking for real crazy winds, you're looking for healthy trees that have been snapped like in half. These were more like big branches that had been bent over and crushed. We had this power line down and we dealt with some, I don't know if there were fire. I don't know if they had to be locals. There's a power line down. Yeah, we're well aware of that. There's power out too, because we had to kind of maneuver around that. But as is life, you can see though trees on cars, very common. And this is where we ended up that night. Now I'm going to go back. I want us to show what happened before that. What happened before that's pretty important. So we were on, you can see the Newton Fire and EMS there checking on a couple vehicles that had trees and homes that had trees as well. They seemed like everybody there was okay though in terms of the injuries. So everybody was moving really, really slowly, not running code. You can see those fire department members are not in a hurry. So that generally is a good thing.
Yep.
But Jarvis, what I want to go to is I want to go to the Salina storm. That was a storm that cost me greatly in multiple manners.
Talking about that there?
So this storm's on I-70, west of Salina right here. Beautiful look. You can see that huge shelf right there evolving.
I forgot to get my shelfie.
Yep. Yep. You can see the huge shelf evolving. You can see the turbulence underneath it. You can see the green looking sky that everybody talks about. Okay. Well, let's shoot it a little bit. Let's get ahead of it. Get a little to the north. Looks like the main core, because this is really not tornadic. We knew there wasn't really any tornado potential, even though we did see some spin right here. It is a bit elevated. So didn't really think we would see much in the way of a tornado, maybe a land spout, but that was probably it. Went to the north. Oh, well, ice bombs begin. And when the ice bombs begin, this is where it gets fun.
Real quick, too.
Real quick. So I'm thinking we're going to get into massive baseball plus hail here. You can see some of that hail there as it hits the ground was a little better than golf ball, a couple of those pieces. But it was not, you might want to cut the audio on this one.
Yeah, I tell you what, let me do that real quick.
Right here, it's 135 sign. That was big hail. That, when we got back on 35, or excuse me, when we got back on 70 and headed east toward into Salina, we couldn't get out of the big hail. I mean, you saw semis, you saw cars driving toward this mess. We couldn't get out of the big hail at that point. So the windshield's already toast. Everything's obliterated. Take a little bit of footage. And I'm like, all right, let's keep going east. Let's move to the east a little bit. See what we can find. And we end up, as you can see, toasting the windshield to pieces. I mean, absolute pieces. Thank goodness for Glass Doctor the next day in Wichita. But as we continue on, we keep going into the backside of this thing. This thing had 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts that took place in Salina. That was a measured gust, 100. I mean, we beat this thing to pieces. You can see the explosions on the ground right there. Those are not small pieces of hail. It destroyed my Starlink. Absolutely destroyed it. So that cost us, from some of the bigger days, being able to stream the way that I wanted to for tornadoes, because Starlink satellite is a big, big deal for us when it comes to that. But you can see all the vehicles there underneath that Flying J truck stop. They were absolutely trying to seek shelter. We were already screwed, so we did not seek shelter. And that's kind of what came of our situation. We got smoked. We got smoked big time by hail. So this kind of set the stage for the next day. We had to go get a windshield replaced. So we ended up in Wichita at Glass Doctor that evening, and ended up going and getting that windshield done. the next day, which was what day was that?
The 20th.
So that was the 20th. So we get a windshield replaced on the 20th. My thoughts are we're done because Northeast Colorado looked to be the target potentially. And then the following day we were going to Iowa. Well, literally, we go to Grand Island after we get a windshield and we're just driving north. And I'm like, man, there's a secondary target. So we talked about this. So we drive up. We're watching this beefy wall cloud on this sail. Just as we cross into Nebraska, we're like, no way, And then we go into Grand Island. And what do we see? Another flipping tornado. Literally on a whim, on our way, go to Grand Island, supercells start popping in central Nebraska. And bam, there's the beefy wall cloud that we saw. I mean, this thing was rapping.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the radar sometimes is, doesn't always look the greatest, but you trust what you see, and holy cow, man, this thing was looking great. And we followed it, and we followed it into the west side of Grand Island, and, man, this thing finally converged up. And right before it died and got choked off. But, man, look at that supercell structure. Look at that. You can see the striations in the rotation there and even the fingers over here. Didn't have the best low-level shear, but there you go. You can see the funnel right there developing. There's actually a tornado underneath that here in just a few moments. Right there. There was a tornado underneath it at that point in time. And you can see it really starting to wrap up there on that right side, that collar. And we moved up the road and bam, got that tornado that day. Did not expect it. It was the only tornado in the state of Nebraska. Right there to the right of the light pole, that left side pole, you can see it coming down, and it touched down there. Had a little debris cloud, and literally you can see the clear slot with the light right there on the left. And after it touched down, it lifts up, and literally the whole freaking sail disintegrates. We thought it was going to revamp, but it just didn't do it. And then as we're going east, headed toward Omaha, we ended up staying in Council Bluffs that night. Had numerous power flashes west of Omaha with those storms that were moving in. Just a wild little chase. Didn't expect much. Didn't have much in terms of expectations, and ended up getting a pretty cool little reward out of that. Always chase that secondary target if possible.
Yeah, because I don't think we'd have made it to Colorado that day.
No, I don't think so either. We're not looking forward to doing that, trying to make that drive and all that jazz. So it was better for us just to do what we did. We got rewarded, got some pretty good severe storms going east that evening. And then it put us in position literally to go to bed when we did in Council Bluffs, wake up after a good night's sleep, and chase tornadoes. We knew that was likely going to be a pretty good day. I wasn't prepared for how quickly that day would take off and then go basically to 0 to 100 and then be done probably. I think we had a three-hour stretch where we had tornadoes on the ground the whole time, and then it was basically over. So as we're driving east here, we're headed to Council Bluffs, spend the night there, wake up the 21st. We went to Raising Cane's for lunch. Tornado sirens start sounding. Start looking, supercells firing to the south. Like, oh, man, got to go. So we start driving, started to get on some sails, ended up going to the south because those look more dominant. They were in a better environment. 3-kilometer Cape down there was like 250, and it was on the nose of the supercells with some increasing 0 to 1 shear. So we were like, oh, I pinpointed that when I looked at satellite, looked at southeast surface winds, coupled with those parameters, go. we broke off the tornado warnings to the north. We were going to go and get those. I was like, go. No, we've got to be in position for this. So we ended up pulling up. Red Oak had a stovepipe just prior to this. So we're just north of Stanton right here on the main highway. And we get a tornado that touches down, crosses the highway in Stanton, and we're watching it right here. There's a tornado on the ground with a debris cloud. And then that one passes, new meso forms. So I'm watching this new meso south of the highway. They literally developed mesos back to back to back. They were all stair-stepping. So watch this form, and then I'm like, oh, shit, tornado. Tornado on the ground. Didn't want to leave the first tornado, but it was hauling. Well, this tornado forms. We're on the main highway. I'm like, okay, we can catch this one. I was thinking that we could have intercepted this one fully. Well, you'll see the problem that we deal with again here in a minute, that we dealt with so many times on this trip.
Here we go again.
A tornado is coming toward the road. We're topping the hill, right? First things first. When we top the hill, I was like, okay, we got one car here off the road, whatever. Well, as we top the hill, we got 50 cars. You'll see it in just a minute. And everybody's got their lights on or whatever. This tornado's got nice debris cloud. We finally found 2 lanes where we could start passing some of these guys, and then we come over top of this hill. Everybody that's out there chasing, I guess they just think that it's okay to stop in the middle of the road, because that's what happened. And then you got people like literally just stop. So we have to cross a double yellow at that point, because we can't slow down to a complete stop in the middle of a highway. And then we're watching the tornado come across at this point. This is where obviously we got plenty of line of sight, but I'm trying to get my guy to get back into the right lane now, because those cars were finally off the shoulder. But we had that numerous times. Just vehicles stopped in the road coming over top of a hill. We're going to plow into them if we don't watch out. So we have to be very careful. But again, this tornado moved off. This actually is the one that became the Prescott, Iowa tornado. I don't know if you saw Reed's video of the windmills being knocked down. They collapsed. One of them blew up. That tornado gets really wild. Unfortunately, we pull up on a scene as this tornado. You see what the tornado's doing. But we pull up on a scene with that. That vehicle's in a field 300 yards-ish off the road. This house is hit right there. Unfortunately.
Smell propane, natural gas.
Yeah, and you can see the sheriff there. I tried to flag him down and let him know about the car in the ravine, and he didn't stop. So we called it in. There was a lady in the field about 100 yards from the car. Unfortunately, she had succumbed to her injuries rather quickly as that car was ejected from the roadway. She was a 46-year-old female, from what I understand, and that's one of the bad parts of storm chasing, because we're watching her cars down there, and we're looking at that beautiful stovepipe-looking tornado off to the northeast right there that is torn through where we're sitting. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly of storm chasing right there.
Yeah, I think that had all of us messed up for a couple days there after getting that information.
Yeah, I got that information. We actually went to press conference that they had in Greenfield, talked to the yes, that was the carbon tornado. We went to the press conference that they had in Greenfield. I talked to the Iowa Public Information Officer for the Iowa Highway Patrol. And myself and Charles Peak from the Weather Channel, we were there talking to him together. And Charles actually found her on the drone and assisted with that situation. So I'm not going to get any deeper into it than that. But that's kind of what happened in that particular incident. That had everybody a bit shook up, but you can see that's the windmills that it took down to Prescott. one was on fire. Several of them. I want to say there were 4 or 5. I think there were 5 that were collapsed from that tornado. So very powerful tornado. I believe there's oil inside those turbines there. So that is likely what was on fire at the time that we got there. We saw Ryan Pitt when we pulled up there and talked to him. I think he had a mini drone out at that point, working on getting the drone footage while we were trying to figure out if we could catch back up to any of the tornadoes. There's his vehicle right there, that Jeep. That's Ryan standing outside as we pulled up with his Mini 3 Pro. And you just see pretty catastrophic when you see those wind turbines destroyed like that. I mean, that's not just taken down. That is torn up big time. Oops, I didn't mean to have that at the end. So that was the carbon deal. We went into Greenfield after that took place. But we'll show you this. This is that Stanton Velisca. This came off my 360 camera on the roof. Really freaking cool, because you can see the collar right there wrap around, and you can see the tornado developing right in front of us. And it's on the ground at that point, actually hitting some chasers on the main highway to the south. But you can see as we pull down on this thing, that is a nasty looking cone, and it's got a debris cloud there on the ground right at that point. Wild video. Wild 360 video. You can see there the debris cloud as we're going by it. And you'll see the damage right up here on the main highway as we pull up on it off this camera. Where there was a trailer that was in the middle of the highway. And then obviously the tree debris that got locked and loaded. And then we focus on that's the meso again, that becomes the carbon tornado. As it's developing to the south. I mean, it was really wild to watch these handoffs take place. And sorry for the water on the lens. We're working on that issue, so we don't have that in the future. But you can see kind of what's going on there as the tornado forms and comes toward the highway here. These, to be as moist as it was that day, to me, some of these tornadoes were rather high based. You had the condensation funnel on the ground, unless I just couldn't see the whole thing the way I needed to see it. But some of these tornadoes seemed like they were high base for a little while. Yeah, Greenfield. But that was a crazy tornado that we had a good view of for a while, and the 360 kept us in check with that. But crazy to watch the blow-ups from that tornado too. Did anything particularly stick out about this tornado to you, Jarvis? I know that apparently there was another tornado to the south that was ongoing at this point too, and we just didn't know it.
Yeah, I remember finding out after. Why do I have an echo? That's annoying. Anyways. Yeah, somebody did mention that after the chase, that there was one to our south, and we just didn't see it at all, which is surprising.
Yep, I agree. Totally agree. But again, nasty storms that day. And then we pulled up into Greenfield and saw some of the damage there, which was, again, pretty intense. Pretty intense. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. That was a rough day.
It was,
seeing all that damage come out of there.
Hold on one moment. Anyway, so we pull into Greenfield. You can kind of see there's a lot of presence here. We were instructed that we had to go into town to a staging area, which was at a Casey's gas station that wasn't destroyed. Now, here's the crazy thing about this tornado. Very, very intense, very, very small. Literally a couple city blocks wide was this tornado as it went through Greenfield. You can see everybody at the conference there on the right, the rainbow on the left with the debris in the trees. I mean, that tornado ate everything that it went through, and I think it got 170 or to 180 mile per hour wind rating, EF4, as it went through town. There were several fatalities here. Talked to a young girl. Her grandfather, I believe, passed away on the death date of the grandmother in the family home that was destroyed from this tornado. So, Heath was out talking to some of the individuals while I was working on the press side of things. So that was impactful. Several cars tumped over, destroyed, thrown, what have you. Just a big ordeal there. You see that truck's just annihilated. That Nissan Titan, you don't survive inside that truck if you're inside that when a tornado hits you. This is one of the homes. This is the home with a fatality, unfortunately, that was cleaned pretty much off of its foundation. I believe there's some steps that were still there. And then you see this, cars flipped, several roofing structures off. Just an awful situation there in Greenfield as the tornado moved through.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, there was debris lofted 40,000 feet.
Yes, there was 40,000 foot debris spike from this tornado. You can see in the distance there, that's looking northeast out of town. You can see all those trees splintered and all that debris to the northeast in the field there. It clipped the backside of the hospital just a little bit, but it just annihilated everything that it went through. Very skinny tornado, only a couple hundred yards wide, but absolute destruction where it hit. So that's kind of where we ended our day on the 21st. And then, truthfully, my days are so off in regards to anything during that time period. I got to go back and look because I know between the 21st and the 26th that something happened. I just got to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I've been trying to go back and archive stuff too, and it's like, what day was this? Thankfully, you click the little icon, it tells you, oh, you were here. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah. I know that obviously we were in Oklahoma the 25th. Oh, I know what. It's because I hadn't uploaded the video. We drove down from there all the way to Texas because Texas was supposed to be a thing the next day. Didn't really do much. We had a couple of tornadoes. Didn't really do much. So we didn't do much the 21st or the 22nd. I think was the tornado in southwest Oklahoma the 23rd. Let's
see. Let me start scrolling back through my phone here.
Oh, all I got to do is look at the tornado reports. Yep. Yep. That was the day. Well, yep, that was the El Dorado tornado. Was the 23rd. So, because the Temple tornado, I think, was the 23rd as well. But there was a bunch of tornadoes up north. That's exactly what it was, Jarvis, because the 23rd was the day that we got stuck. The 24th is the day that we tried to get the truck fixed. So you got the video from the 23rd of the El Dorado tornado. El Dorado, Creta, Oklahoma. That was one of the wildest things I've seen. I think I sent you the video from the 360 of that.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. And then we got the dash video too.
Yep.
Let's see if I can throw that up here. There we go.
Well, here's some interesting. Temple was the 22nd. That's right. I think there was a second Temple tornado the 23rd, though, right? As well, in some area that was pretty close to the same region. Anyway, this one was the one that kind of stole the show. There was a supercell. There were a couple supercells that went up on the Texas-Oklahoma border. And this one ended up becoming dominant. And this storm was just crazy because we've been following this thing for over an hour and started watching it develop. Everything came together. You can see the wall cloud there. This is off the 360 camera. You can see the wall cloud there really getting its act together. The rotation's really starting to wrap. Well, you start seeing ground circulation here in a second. Wouldn't be surprised if there was some winds that were already at ground level before this, but I mean, this thing is going off with lightning, and we knew it was going to go. It was just a matter of time. It was so unstable down there. There was over 6,000 CAPE in the region. But here's your RFD surge, and when this surge takes place, that's when tornado genesis really starts to begin, and you can see it there. There it goes as you start seeing ground circulations with the hard RFD cut, and this thing just went bananas. We had multi-vortex tornado. We had a good little stovepipe there for a little bit. This is sped up just a bit. Nice stovepipe right there. It's a carousel mezzo. You had lots and lots of tornadoes that spun up off this thing. Well, this is coming. You can see this is a very wide angle shot. So the supercell is spinning down the road. So back off a little bit and just watch this thing spin and spin and spin and move. It was actually moving southeast for a time period because as the storms got their act together, they turned right and went hard southeast until the tornado got so strong it went into the occlusion state. When that took place, the tornado pulled east and then almost due north as it occluded, went across the highway. It damaged some properties, I think mobile homes primarily. And then it got really nasty into a big stovepipe here in just a little bit. But you can see that in terms of structure is just incredible. Well, here's where it comes across the highway.
Up on Highway 34 there. You can see the cone there, left edge of it.
Big cone tornado right there. That is a huge debris cloud on the ground with that tornado there. Pretty close range right here. You're talking less than a half a mile from the tornadic winds. And again, you got tons and tons and tons of chasers on the roadway there. They were doing pretty decent in some ways, but again, some of these guys just they're skittish. They don't. I felt like that there were a lot of newer guys out there that really didn't know what the heck they were watching, but you can see those crazy vortices going up around that thing. That was a very powerful tornado. If that thing had something to hit, that thing would have absolutely caused significant type damage. Some of the see that? See, it's ripping off. It looks like that was a trailer there that it was ripping the roof off of.
Yeah, I hadn't went back and really looked at this video in detail, but I see what you're talking about there. And as you can see here, we're trying to keep up with it here. We didn't have a south option. 6 was closed. So we just kind of kept shooting it from the backside because it was very photogenic.
Yeah, that was a very strong tornado right there. Very visible tornado from some awkward areas too. You could see really, really well on the backside. Really well on the backside there. And as Jarvis said, we had some closed roads. We had a closed bridge. There was a bridge that was out. That was one of the things that really kept from getting really, really close to that thing. Not only that, but obviously storm chasers. But you can see this is the RFD portion of it. You can see that left to right motion of the field right there, the grass in the field. So this is on the back side of the counterclockwise rotation. But man, what a storm! That was one of those storms that had a lot going for it. Had absolutely a ton going for it, and that was probably one of my favorite tornadoes of the whole event. And then when it did this right here, this was the moment when it stovepiped and turned into a big ghostly white stovepipe. Man, that was freaking incredible. Just a great tornado, and I know it did a little bit of damage, but it didn't really hurt many people or any people. And that was something I wanted to see, and I'm glad it didn't tear things up. It did not tear things up to the level of some of the stuff that we have seen. But that was a great tornado.
Yeah, it was nice just to watch it kind of come right at you through the fields, not really doing any damage, and just being able to follow it and get some great shots like this.
Yeah, this was again, this was a great period of time. I had incredible. I don't know. It's been an incredible month. You can see that thing, how it was stovepiped out, coned at the bottom, and then the rain curtains wrapping around it there. The contrast kind of gets bad, but we were on that tornado. We were on that storm for a couple hours, and then the tornado, and then obviously it went.
What happened afterwards?
But then we decided to move off to the east. So moving off to the east, let me give you a little bit of advice here. I think Jarvis has got some pictures he's going to show here shortly.
Yeah.
Altus, Oklahoma, in southern Oklahoma. I have never been stuck in my life. Well, we got stuck, so we called Bryce Shelton. And I thought Bryce was going to kill this guy. This guy, literally, Bryce was barely on this road. And he's in an F-350, mind you. Four-wheel drive F-350, big vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So Bryce has a guy that says he can pull him out in a Z71. Well, nope, that didn't happen. He almost pulled him into a river. Bryce is stuck inside the vehicle. His driver's side door is basically on the ground on that side. And I'm calming him down because he's wanting to get out and kill this guy. I've told this guy he needs to leave. He's got to go. He's got to go or we're going to have a problem. So this is Bryce's truck as he attempted to come to rescue us. Go to the next slide there, Jarvis. Well, this is what we ended up being in and what we ended up having to do to get my truck out. Oklahoma Clay, baby.
Mm-hmm.
We walked for a mile and a half. Bryce and I drug a pallet for a mile to try to get it underneath the tire to try to get traction and pull it out. Well, all we ended up doing was separating my bumper. Then Bryce and I and others walked and up to the end of the main paved road, and we ended up meeting locals there. A couple of them helped pull other vehicles out, and then we ended up meeting the farmer that had this quad. And the quad here is what saved the day and got the truck out. But, man, that was a awfully rough ride once we got it out. The truck was caked full of mud. Tires were caked. Had to go get a deadgum alignment, rotation, balance. Let's go to the next picture, Jarvis. I'm going to show. This is where we thought we were spending the night. So there's
I was fully prepared too.
There's Jarvis sitting in the passenger side.
Just sitting there stuck.
Go to the next slide. I want to show the moonlight in the background. Not that one. I don't know.
I don't think you sent that one to me.
Did I not?
I don't think so.
Thought I sent you one with the moon in the background. Anyway, we thought we were spending the night on the not the highway, but we thought we were spending the night on the roadway. But anyway, we got out this local. He lets us use his pressure washer. We get as much of this mud out of the wheels as we can. The truck's got mud all on the inside. I mean, you're talking just a nasty, nasty event here. He sprayed this one off. There were 2 or 3 others. I sprayed one off. Bryce's had to be sprayed off. It creased his door, which it didn't matter the next day because the Claremore tornado blew his back window out. But we were trying to get everything situated because we had to get back to Oklahoma City because that was going to be the closest place for us to get any vehicle repair done. So we did this, cleaned it up. He's dragging us down the road. You can see how that looks like chocolate milk. Not the good kind either. It's just a bad scenario. Getting drugged through the ditch to get out and all that good stuff. But we made it through. We got out of there. So got back to Oklahoma City next day. Luckily, one shot was able to get it in to align it, balance and rotate the tires. Got it into a local wash that was able to pull all that crap out. And for the most part, the mud and everything. So we got all that out. And we got it going. And we had a day that we could rest. And then we ended up the next day. We dealt with severe weather. North Texas had tornadoes. North Oklahoma had tornadoes. We literally ended up going the whole gamut through there. And we're going to end up going to Claremore next, just so you know, Jarvis.
I got you.
So we ended up to the north after all day piddling with the storms down there. Lawton didn't do anything. It got pointed out to me that the cap was too strong on the 20Z Norman sounding. That it was capped off. So we ended up going north toward the border, toward better winds, better forcing. And we don't want to show this part yet. We want to go to the actual tornado, Jarvis.
Let's see.
If it ain't, it ain't at the beginning of this one. It's the other one.
Oh, there it is. I gotcha.
Noticed that things weren't really going the way we thought, so we were about to get ready and leave. Red Rock, Oklahoma, supercell fired off. Tornado warning. There was a boundary out in front of it, so we didn't know if it was going to hook up to the boundary or not. But it was close enough that it was interesting. Well, it kept trying to hook, and then you would see very, very intense rotation when it did that. We went all the way almost to Red Rock, just to the east, and we tracked this thing all the way back down into Tulsa. Started to leave it. We were staying in Joplin that night. Did not leave it. Drive down south, straight down toward Claremore, and going on the main highway north. Holy smokes! What did we come up on? Big tornado coming across the highway right there, illuminated as we're going south, and we had a circulation wrap up over top of us after this, and we ended up getting down into town, especially on the south side and the east side, and ended up having to do more or less search, not really much rescue. Talked to several people, checking on them. You can see that right there on Highway 20 East was one of the worst scenes that I rolled up on in the town area. And we ended up moving and continuing to the east after that, trying to really go and catch the tornado because it continued. That's the storm that went all the way to Arkansas, dropping EF2s, EF3 tornadoes, big tornadoes on its path. Well, as you can see, it had already done a lot of damage. We're out here checking. So we begin to get east after we've assessed this damage, made sure, the people that we came up to were okay. And then essentially we ended up coming back into Claremore on the other side because I'm hearing possible issues at there's a casino there just off the interstate on 20, and there's a campground. We roll up on the campground and I see this and I'm like, oh God. Potential mass casualty event because it's Memorial Day weekend and there's a campground. This campground is full, completely full, loaded. And we see all this response. We see flip cars. We see tossed campers. My thought process is, well, there's definitely going to be some fatalities here. Question is, how many? How many are we going to see that are dead? When you see that from the drone, that's never a good sign when they've got bobcats trying to pick up these. Well, apparently several ambulances went out of here running code, which is also not a great sign. That typically means that they've got severe injuries. That did not end up being the case. There were some injuries, no fatalities. That's a flipped over camper that smashed. There was a storm shelter here that held over 200 people at this campground. Everybody in this campground survived this EF3 tornado. It completely destroyed a very well-built horse stable just to the northeast of town that holds retirement horses. Several of the horses, unfortunately, were killed. Last I heard, there were 5. And I know one had to be put down, unfortunately. And that stable was pretty much completely destroyed. Very well built. I think that may have been one of the EF3 damage points, actually. So, very lucky in this instance that we did not have a mass casualty event from the tornado there because they had a giant storm shelter in place for these people on a holiday weekend in a packed campground. That absolutely is just amazing to me. And everybody went to it. Everybody went to it. Incredible. Incredible. And as you can see, again, the response out there was immense. It was huge. There were so many people that were worried about all the campers. We did have fatalities, just not at this site, thank goodness. Further to the east, though, prior fatalities, Decatur, I believe, Arkansas fatalities, had several of them. So this is where we ended our night. I think we got to Joplin at 3 or 4 in the morning. And that's where we ended up was Joplin, Missouri. After this tornado rolled through. Then the next day comes along. It looks like it's a day, but it doesn't look like the day. Well, all this moves through. There's tornadoes in Kentucky. There's tornadoes in Missouri. There's tornadoes in Arkansas that morning. Well, we destabilize and start seeing supercells go early, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We're on the road east out of Joplin, Springfield. End up going down one of the main highways there, which is insane to me because that is in the Mark Twain National Forest. Not typical for you to ever see tornadoes in this part of southern Missouri. But in this case, in this weird flipping case, we get tornadoes off of Highway 60 in southern Missouri. So watching this storm from the drone, and this storm right here is north of Kabul, Missouri, west of Houston. This is probably closer to Ben Davis. They're east of Highway 95 and south of 38, or right, maybe it's pretty close to 38 there. But Ben Davis, Missouri, and it moved over toward Lundy, just to the west of us. That's where we were. Saw this gorgeous tornado from the drone. Very impressive. Had debris clouds several times that shot up into the air. We were able to watch this tornado for a solid 20 minutes off and on from the drone, and we ended up having enough signal that I was able to live stream it. Okay, here's the beginning. So this portion right here is where we see the supercell really show itself, wrap it up. You see the wall cloud beginning to show itself back there in the left flank of the storm. And had this thing up in the air and watch. That's its first touchdown right here. You can see that thing is, that's a beefy tornado. That's almost 20 miles away right there. You're watching that tornado go from about 20 miles away.
And the fact that you can see it so clearly.
Yeah.
With the drone like that.
You know, that's only a 3x zoom. I could have went up to 7, which I probably could have, but it's a digital zoom and I didn't have it turned on. But you can see that's a fat pipe right there to be 20 miles away. That's a fat stovepipe for a little while. And the morphologies of this tornado are just freaking insane to me. And I mean, this is after, you know, the Claremore tornado and all that stuff happened too. Valley View, Texas got smoked the night before as well, with numerous fatalities. A truck stop hit there off I-35. We'd stayed in Gainesville a couple of nights prior, Jarvis, and that was only about only about 10 miles south of there. But this tornado north of Kabul near Ben Davis was just mesmerizing to watch as it approached. I actually had to drop the drone because I didn't have a full battery on it when I started. Put a full battery in and get the drone back up while watching this tornado. You see it's getting close right there. I mean, that's just Look at the vortices, the helical vortices at the bottom right there. That type of stuff really and truly just blows my mind how these tornadoes morph, and how hard in some cases. You can see that's not fully condensed right there, but the debris clouds on the ground, it's more fully condensed there, but that debris clouds on the ground tearing stuff up. But that was one of the more fun tornadoes. I don't think it did a lot of damage other than mainly outbuildings. No one was hurt from this tornado, probably due to its small size. And just a crazy day. Just a crazy day. We continued with this supercell for a second, and it moved off to the north. Another tornado touched down along basically Highway 60, bends to the south, and goes through Willow Springs and Mountain View. And we followed that next supercell from basically Mountain View, Birch Tree, Winona, saw the next tornado east of Birch Tree near Winona, and tracked that thing over toward Van Buren. And this is a literal nightmare with the elevation changes, horrible cell signal. A lot of the conservation areas out there just tree infested. So unless you're on that main road or you have a drone, you're not seeing much. And as these started to get more rain wrapped, it was much harder to get a friggin' drone in the air until you got east going toward Poplar Bluff. Once you get east of Poplar Bluff, you get out of that area over near Sykeston. And, Sykeston over there is in the Mississippi River Delta. So we ended up moving over towards Sykeston and down 55 there, watching to see if we were going to continue to get tornadoes through the evening with the storms that were developing out of northeast Arkansas. And those just didn't quite verify to the level that they may have. But we had several tornadoes in that corridor, and then had a big tornado up in southern Illinois, and had another one that ended up being over near Eddyville, Kentucky. It got going. Some of the areas that were impacted by the 2021 Mayfield, Kentucky tornado ended up getting hit again east of Kentucky Lake there. I think that's Lake Barkley in the Cumberland River. North to east of there, Eddyville, and that storm went up basically toward Arlington and Beulah, Farmersville, I believe, that got hit by that tornado that evening. North side of Dawson Springs. That was where Brandon Clement ended up catching that tornado. And that was a strong EF3 also, and had another one to the east of there. So May was very, very busy. We had a tornado south of Midland Airport yesterday that prompted a tornado emergency. I don't think it did any real damage out there to the south, but I mean, it seems like day after day after day after day, we've been watching these storms over and over and over again. Just kind of been wild, and all the images to prove it. But yeah, Jarvis, what do you got to add about the trip? Your audio is not coming through if you're talking. FY.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, I got you. Overall, the trip, I don't know. I still haven't really took it all in because I had to come straight back and go to work. But it was overall a great trip. We had a great team together. I think, everybody kind of did their part and helped out, and nobody was bored, I tell you that much. We had a lot of fun.
Too much. Way too much. I can say that the experiences over the last month have been the best I've ever had in the field. Amazing chemistry, amazing calls, amazing execution, to a surreal type level.
Yeah, especially during that the Iowa day. I mean, everybody in the truck knew what they had to do. Everybody's helping each other. You were doing live hits. You know, we were navigating, Heath driving. It was just a really, really great team experience in the field.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that continues. It's it was crazy to see so much of what was seen. It was even crazier to reflect on it after the fact in multiple ways. And I don't know, man. I just had I do not like death and destruction by any count at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Nobody does. If you think anybody out here chasing is looking for death and destruction, you're crazy. That's not the thing. We're humans too. We stop, we check, we try to help. We do a lot of things. We don't want to get in the way. We did have a couple of situations, especially in Claremore, where we had one cop that was kind of off the wall with his antics, screaming, cussing a lot of people. And at that point, I'm just getting out of the way because I can't do anything when people, are loose screws. Maybe that's the good word to use here, where there's not a real, at that point, I don't think there was a checkpoint set up. It had been fresh. It had just happened. We had already checked the area the dude was driving toward. But anyway, that's nor here nor there. I don't know that I've ever had a time period where everything came together over the course of a 30-day window perfectly the way that it did. And that's scary. That's scary. It's good. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic in terms of execution. But that was scary. That was a little bit odd for me.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in the truck, you were high-fiving everybody and just praising everybody. I was like, all right, we're doing this right.
Yeah. Well, and there's, again, it was perfect execution. Mm-hmm. You don't get on every storm like that on any given day that you're able to be there. It doesn't happen. You miss. You're gonna miss sometimes.
Oh yeah, and it hurts.
We didn't miss. We really just didn't miss. So I'll say this in my own cryptic way. It was a very big. It was a huge blessing, but a curse. Blessing and a curse.
Heath says his arm still hurts, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Mine does too, from that pallet popping my arm when I was trying to get the front end of the truck out. I still got my shoes in the truck. I haven't washed them. I don't know if I ever will.
I ended up just throwing mine out.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw them out. There's a couple pairs of shoes in the truck. I ain't going to throw them out. Those were too meaningful because of just the series of events. I washed the boots, but my newbies are back there. I can't do a lot.
Heath says he still has my shoes.
They're in a bag.
Dude, you should have thrown them out. I've already got a new pair.
Yeah, you can chunk them, mate. You can chunk his.
Unless you want to put them in a put them up on the wall.
I don't know. I still got a lot of processing about that time period to do. It's been crazy though. It's been crazy. I don't know. I know our our view count's dwindling down, so I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna keep it short here. Anybody got any questions about the event or about the month or any comments? I'll be glad to put anybody up here. And Bob Pack quits. I quit too, Bob.
We need to get him on the show sometime.
Oh, I mean, it's easy. Send him a link. He was on the Temple tornado. Well, he was on the tornadoes in Houston. I think he was on the Temple tornado too. Beard was on the Valley View stuff. So, yeah, we may do a panel where we bring some guys on if they want to bring some video in too and communicate about this. Oh yeah. Yeah, we still got flood warnings there in the Little Rock metro area. There's that big bow that went through Lubbock. Those are considerable tag severe thunderstorm warnings, it looks like. So it's been a rough month in terms of the severe weather. And it continues to be. These bow echoes, these derecho bow echoes, etc.
Y'all must have had a dream team this past month. Yeah, we did.
Must have.
We did. I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Must have.
Heath with hashtag FAFO team.
Yeah, I've still got my I still got a lot to say, but anyway, that'll be on another show. A different type of show. Yeah, Houston wasn't a derecho, except that they classified it as a derecho. You got anything else, Jarvis?
Not really. I mean, I'm still trying to go back and process it all, look through video, look through pictures. Overall, it was a great experience. It was nice to be back out in the field for the first time in 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, just overall great time, man.
I enjoyed it very much. Speaking of the field, I am trying to decide if I'm going to go back as early as, I don't know, day 3's got something. Oh, it's all the way down to the northern Kansas area now.
Interesting. I thought we were going to have a quiet period for a little bit.
I mean, it looks like there's a little bit of a quiet period, maybe 4 through 8. Let's look. Well, maybe not. Low storm motion. Okay. Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, day 5. Thunderstorms, but the boundary parallel flow suggests by the ECMWF. Slow motions and limited severe potential, while the more progressive GFS has more westerly flow. Some severe appears possible. Guidance then shows variability on how the wave evolves Wednesday through Friday, with the variability keeping predictability low. So, yeah. Anyway, anything else question-wise? The PDO being extremely positive. Let me check that. Is also a signal of, was the trolley budget affected?
Not one bit.
Nope. I threw them on the dash and tried to get us ran over a couple of times, so there was that. All the drivers were phenomenal.
What's the story behind that, by the way? I know it's something you've done for years with the trolleys.
Well, that's something I've always thrown at tornadoes. Okay, so the PDO's tank negative. It's almost -3 on the index. And then the AMO is way positive. So the Pacific oscillation out there being negative, it's as negative as it was it's as negative as it was in 2011. And the AMO surging too. It looks like that the La Nina is also backpedaling a little bit on some of the guidance. So we'll see. I still think that we got a big ass hurricane season coming at this point too.
Yeah, what were they saying? 85% above average?
Yeah, it's going to be tremendous. There's no doubt about that. There's going to be no doubt about that.
Been a while since I've been in a cane.
I need a Cat 5 like yesterday, but you know, I don't like saying that, but I need one somewhere.
Go big or go home, I guess.
Yeah, 85% chance of being above average, so I'm gearing up for hurricane.
Heath talking about Meow 5.
Yep. That he is. What the public does not understand is that doesn't mean more U.S. impacts. No, it doesn't. The question is the Bermuda High. The current look of the trajectories, though, to me seems like problems. Seems like problems. Could be wrong. Could be right. But we shall see. So what else? What the? Yeah, my clock battery's been dead, Pitt. I just saw some screenshots everywhere. I hate everybody. Everybody in our Discord channel, I hate you all. Just so you know. You can all, yeah. Anyway.
These will be good for a later date.
Whatever you say, buddy. Whatever you say.
Well, you ready to wrap this thing up? Get on out of here?
I think so. In closing, most amazing month I've ever had. That's about all I can say. Storms, planes, everything that came with it. It was top notch. Appreciate the company and experience. So until next time, we will maybe have this much tornado video in the next year and a half. I don't know. I had some really, really, really good and smart people assisting with this, so that put us in a good spot. Anyway, Jarvis, you can wrap it and stay tuned. Next severe event, hurricane event, either one. I'm gonna be looking to get out on the road here as soon as I can. So maybe we'll have some more storms. Maybe the high plains season's about to kick off. Stay tuned though. I've got my new Starlink coming in, and as soon as I get it mounted on, if there's an opportunity,
hitting the road.
I'm out, baby. I'm out. So thanks everybody for tuning in and allowing me to bore you for the last hour and however many minutes.
I think they've been thoroughly entertained. I think we may start doing this monthly. And bringing some people in.
I don't know. We used to do this thing called Drinking with Scientists, and to be honest with you, I think I could use a few, and then maybe we could come back on and have a whole nother saga there, Jarvis.
I mean, I'm down for it. I'll grab some stuff too. We'll do.
No, you're not. You're not down for this. Anyway,
we'll do LSM after dark.
Yeah, that's what it would be. Anyway, thanks, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, you know how to reach me. Most of you, email, text, whatever, and we will be back for the next event. That might not be safe. Wait. Maybe we should do it, Jarvis. I think I got Angry Orchard and Fireball in here in the refrigerator, so we can figure that out here in a minute. We'll be back. We'll be back shortly. Yeah, let's Jarvis and I are going off camera now. We're gonna have a conversation. Thanks everybody. Appreciate you watching, and see you soon.